Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 3 UFL power rankings. So, briefly recapping Week 2, the Brahmas beat the Showboats by a score of 20-19. The Battlehawks beat the Renegades 27-24. The Stallions defeated the Panthers 20-13. And finally, the Defenders knocked off the Roughnecks 23-18. So, getting into my Week 3 power rankings, beginning at the bottom at number 8, we have the Houston Roughnecks. The Roughnecks lost to the Defenders 23-18, and they've now dropped to 0-2 to start the season. Now, on top of the loss for the Roughnecks, they also lost two players to injuries, and those are quarterback Jarrett Guantanamo, who suffered a rib injury, and he will be out at least a month, as well as running back slash receiver Kirk Merritt. He has a dislocated wrist and is out for the season. And those are two big injuries for the Roughnecks because Guantanamo is obviously these teams' starting quarterback, but Merritt was the team's leading receiver with 113 receiving yards. So now the Roughnecks will be turning to Reed Sinnott at quarterback following the injury to Guantanamo, as he was the guy who replaced him in the game, and he finished with a solid stat line of 19 for 30 for 221 yards and a touchdown. Now the Roughnecks struggled to run the football, again rushing for just 50 yards on 3.3 yards a carry, but that should be improved once star running back Mark Thompson returns from injury. And then defensively, the Roughnecks, they were okay, but they've gotten off to a rough start, and they might enter my power rankings at number 8. Number 7, we have the other winless team, that is the Arlington Renegades. So they joined the Roughnecks, the only teams at 0-2 in the UFL. The Renegades lost to the Battlehawks by a score of 27-24, but the Renegades' offense actually played pretty well. They scored 24 points, and quarterback Luis Perez was great once again, with 233 yards and a touchdown. Plus, they were good enough running the football with 71 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, the surprise for me so far for the Renegades has been their defense. They've allowed 27 points in back-to-back games. Now, I know they've probably faced the two best offenses in the UFL, but I do think there is cause for concern on the defensive side of the ball because they've gotten run over in both those games, and they didn't play particularly well against the pass against the Battlehawks either. So the Renegades' offense looked good, defense not so much. They're winless and are at number 7. Number 6, we have the DC Defenders. They enter at number 6 following their first win of the season, beating the Roughnecks by a score of 23-18. It was also their home opener, and they're now a perfect 10-0 at Audi Field, and that includes the XFL in 2020, the XFL last year, and now the one game they've played there this year. But the Defenders, they played pretty well, scoring the last 11 points of the game to lock up the win. And quarterback Jordan Tiamu played a nice game, finishing with 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Now, the Defenders were much better in the red zone this week, scoring touchdowns on 3 of their 4 red zone trips, whereas last week they were 0 for 4, and that was a huge difference as it actually allowed them to score on not just field goals. But the Defenders pick up their first win of the season, and they're at number 6 in my power rankings. Number 5, we have the Memphis Showboats. So they fall from number 3 to number 5 following their loss to the Brahmas 20-19. This is a game they should not have lost. The Showboats led 16-0 entering the final quarter of play and ended up getting outscored 20-3 in the fourth quarter. Now, the Showboats offense played well. Case Cookus threw for 194 yards and a touchdown. Plus, the Showboats ran the football effectively, rushing for 112 yards. But there was 2 major problems which caused the Showboats to lose this week's game. The first was their poor efficiency in the red zone, as they had just 1 touchdown on 6 red zone trips, being forced to settle for 3 field goals within 30 yards. And the second big problem was their defense in the fourth quarter. As in the fourth quarter, the Brahmas scored all 20 of their points and gained 241 of the team's 310 total yards. So I definitely think the Showboats will be able to bounce back, but after a tough loss in a game they should have won, they're going to fall to number 5. Number 4, we have the Panthers. So they remain at 4 after they lost their first game of the season, losing to the Stallions by a score of 20-13. The Panthers' defense was great once again, allowing just 20 points against a great Stallions offense. Although they did allow the Stallions to run the football effectively, as they allowed 161 rushing yards. Now, the offense for the Panthers wasn't great. They scored just 13 points, but quarterback E.J. Perry was decent, throwing for 203 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. But the Panthers struggled to run the football. Now, the Panthers are a team that still have a ton of potential, but they are yet to play a complete game. Their defense has played pretty well in the first 2 weeks, but the offense has gotten off to an extremely slow start, especially quarterback EJ Purry, and he's going to need to get off to faster starts throughout the game. But I don't want to drop the Panthers for playing a close game to definitely the top team in the UFL, so they're going to remain number 4. Number 3, we have the Battlehawks. So they move up to number 3 following their first win of the season, beating the Renegades by a score of 27-24 on a walk-off field goal. The Battlehawks lost on a last-second field goal last week. They won on a last-second field goal this week. But the Battlehawks offense was great in the victory, putting up 27 points, and they played a great offensive game all around. Quarterback A.J. McCarron passed for 248 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they had 2 wide receivers who had great games, those being Darius Shepard and Marcel Aitman. Aitman finished with 4 catches for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Darius Shepard had 9 catches for 82 yards. And while the pass game was great for the Battlehawks, so was the run game, as running back Mateo Durant was outstanding with 14 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown, and that is good for 7.4 yards per carry. But this was a great offensive performance for the Battlehawks. They pick up their first win of the season in their first home game of the season, also setting the record for modern spring football in terms of attendance with over 40,000 people there, which broke their own record from last year of about 38,000. And the Battlehawks, I'm not concerned about their week 1 loss at all. They enter at number 3. Number 2, we have the San Antonio Brahmas. They remain at number 2 following an insane comeback win over the Showboats, winning 20-19. The Brahmas were awful in their first 3 quarters, getting shut out and only having 69 total yards. But once the fourth quarter started, they were a completely different team. They outscored the Showboats 20-3 in the final quarter, and they had an insane comeback win. We also saw the first use of the 4th and 12 from your own 28-yard line, which is the alternative to the onside kick, and that is a big reason the Brahmas were able to come back. They converted that 4th and 12, kept possession, and went down to score the game-winning touchdown. But the Brahmas' offense was good, and quarterback Chase Garbers has looked like the top quarterback in the UFL so far, finishing with 287 yards and 3 touchdowns and a pick, also adding 20 rushing yards. And the Brahmas, they got 2 great performances from receivers Marquez Stevenson and Cody Latimer. Stevenson finished with 103 yards and a touchdown on 6 catches, while Latimer had 8 catches for 91 yards and the game-winning score. But the Brahmas, after an insane comeback, they will remain at number 2 in my power rankings, and they are one of 2 undefeated teams. And number 1, I'm sure you guessed it by now, it is the Birmingham Stallions. They're 2-0 after their 20-13 win over the Panthers. The Stallions' offense was solid despite only scoring 20 points, and I say only because that's not very good for how good we know the Stallions' offense is. Now, while the offense was good, they do need to figure out the quarterback position, because they've been playing a 2-quarterback system with Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez, and I'm not a fan of it. It's really hard for one quarterback to get into a rhythm, only playing maybe 2 series at a time, and that is a big reason why neither quarterback, Adrian Martinez or Matt Corral, had more than 100 yards passing. So I would definitely like to see the Stallions get a quarterback and stick with him as the season progresses, as I don't think this 2-quarterback system will be completely sustainable throughout the entire season. But while the passing game was not good, the run game was elite for the Stallions, running for 161 yards, and they have now surpassed 150 rushing yards in each of their first 2 games. The concerning thing for the Stallions offense was they went just 1 of 6 in the red zone and had a tough time finishing drives, settling for way too many field goals. But I definitely think that is something they can fix, as in week 1 they were great in the red zone. Now, the Stallions' defense was also great in this game, allowing just 13 points, 205 total yards, forcing 2 turnovers, racking up 7 sacks, as well as 8 tackles for loss. But this was a great game for the Stallions. Their defense dominated. They're still the clear top team in the UFL. But those are my week 3 UFL power rankings. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my rankings, disagree, and why. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.